To some people, however, love remained enshrined in the old symbols of the upswept bosom, the nicely rounded derriere, and the luscious limbs, as presented in magazines like Playboy by men like publisher Hugh Hefner. But some people, like Billy Graham, fought the old symbols and in the old way.
Are you for premarital and postmarital sex?
I'm for premarital sex, which is not to suggest that that I'm simply advocating it as a cure-all for our sexual problems, but I think that sex is the one area that we have a tendency to assume is going to work itself out in society without any real prior experience, and I think this is irrational.
Don't you, though, by your magazine, stimulate postmarital sex?
No, I don't think so. I think that anything that
isn't the purpose, for instance, isn't one of the purposes of the magazine the erotic stimulation, titillation? Now, doesn't this, therefore, contribute toward postmarital sex?
No, because the major things that really prompt sexual behavior are the inner drives in a human being. What a society does in its various forms of mass communication, magazines, movies, advertising, whatever it may be, is to give some specific direction to this sex drive.
Certainly you don't believe that sex should be expressed without any restraint at all.
Well, let's take for a moment consideration of exactly what kind of sex Playboy emphasizes. Primarily heterosexual, healthy, associating sex with beauty, with humor, things that are apt to take the onus and the sickness away from sex. It is attempting continually to keep it in the dark, to associate it continually with things either sacred or profane.
If you do not repress the sexual urge, you have rape. If you do not repress the rage, you have murder. If you do not repress your desires, you have all kinds of improprieties running out. I'm not talking about the repression of all normal desire, but certainly in the society, repression is an essential part of it, or you've got rape, incest, and you name it.
I'll make a distinction between the words suppression and repression. I use repression in its Freudian or psychoanalytical sense as an unconscious thing that people do to themselves, out of which comes various kinds of emotional instability. It is certainly necessary for a society to suppress certain kinds of behavior that may be harmful to members of the citizenry.
I think that we find enjoyment on the road of duty. And when we are serving God, and our purpose in life is to glorify God in our lives. And if a person goes out to find pleasure in sensual living, I think he's going to miss pleasure, the true pleasures of life, the true joys of life. And I think that we see the emptiness today where young people are engaged in sex promiscuity. There's an emptiness. They're sick of it.
Let's take, for instance, the Playboy nudes or semi-nudes. This is an unreal world.
To some extent.
Well, by and large, an unreal world.
Not for me, it isn't. But
well, it may not be for you, but then perhaps your category is a little different. However, that's not the thing I'm interested in at the moment. But in it, the girl is not the girl next door. The girl
Depends on the neighborhood you live in.
Well, that's a good remark, but not quite to the point. It is not the girl next door. It is a girl who is chosen very, very carefully,
yes,
and very selectively, who has to be a certain type of girl, the
well,
general...
the most beautiful girl we can find.
Right, and you've laid out the terms. But beyond that, there is the supplementing of lighting, there is the use of body makeup, there is airbrushing out, all imperfections. She's a kind of idealized, not available girl, not the girl next door, but she is something which is in Walter Mitty's dream world, really.
Well, again, I would beg to differ to some extent, because she is, without question, purposely an idealization. And at the same time, recognizing that the Playmate and the other pictures in the magazine are only pictures in the magazine. They're not human beings and can't be equated with human beings. They are only paper and ink.
I wouldn't want to comment on Mr. Hefner personally because I don't know him. But I would say that a man who has given himself to this type of pleasure, I would think probably is a very miserable person.